Hello, my name is Lasaya. Welcome to this program. Today I am with a very good friend here, Mr. Curtis Shearer from Washington, D.C. Kurt here, you don't mind I call you Kurt, right?
That's fine.
Okay. Is from Washington, D.C.
No, Washington State.
Washington State, sorry. Washington State. And now he had made Sabah his home.
That's correct.
Okay. So, first thing I would like to ask you, how do you find yourself staying in this place? If you hear whirlwind sound, that's because we just switch on the fan. I was saying, how do you find yourself in your new home, in your new place? Could you tell us?
Well, when I came here, from the very start, I just felt peaceful. I don't feel any threat, like to watch behind me, like somebody is going to try to hurt me. Or
Right.
it's just people are so friendly here. It's just, I've been to many places in the world, many different countries and places in the U.S., and it's always stressful. You have to be on your guard all the time. Here, I don't worry about anything.
Oh, that's so you really feel very safe.
Safe is
Yeah,
what
very
I'm trying to
safe.
say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you adjust yourself to the daily activities?
Well, my personality is a workaholic, so I try to stay busy. You know, I have to be doing something, so I found I can, keep working in the garden area. Kabun, you say.
Okay.
There's always something to do.
So you were able to adjust to the kabun life, the farming life here in Sabah, in North Borneo, they say.
Right.
So anyway, how did you know about coming to Sabah in the first place? Could you tell us a little bit about how you came to Sabah?
Well, I heard of Borneo Island, but I had no idea where it was, or I didn't even know what country it was. I thought Borneo was a country. But then as I saw the opportunity to come visit here, so I did a little research and I found out, oh, this is Malaysia. So, well, yeah, I'd like to go to that area of the world, and it was an opportunity to come with on a missionary effort.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I understand there was a program by the church, By the way, we belong to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and Mr. Shearer here, Kurt here, is a very active member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And there was this Share Him program that you joined. Could you tell us about it?
Yeah, it was Share Him and also with Quiet Hour. These two groups were combining forces to go out and they go all over the world. But there was somebody, a local from here, that invited them to come and put on some meetings for the people here.
So that's how you came to be part of the program?
Yeah, actually I applied for 3 different areas. I could have went to, I was accepted on 2 of those. I applied to go to Philippines. I also applied to go to Brazil and go on a boat on the Amazon River with some doctors and dentists.
That would have been wonderful, an experience.
When I looked more into it, it looked like the doctors and the dentists, we have all the fun, and we just we're doing all the work. So I said, I think I'll choose this one here in Malaysia, see what that's all about.
Okay, yeah. So that's how you came here.
Yeah.
But there were so many places in Malaysia during that time when you came together. So.
Well, we had several different churches, and I was assigned to this little group here that came to this Nangka village church.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, we will take a break, and then after this we will continue with our conversation.
All right.
You are from Washington State,
Correct.
America. Okay, could you tell us a little bit about your early life and probably your experience in your early life? You were a U.S. serviceman, I understand.
Yes, after high school, my friends and I, we joined the military on a buddy system. They give you special, perks for joining. They like to get more people conscripted into the army, so they gave us some extra bonus for joining as a group. But originally I grew up in Southern California, Los Angeles area.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather worked at Universal Studios in Hollywood, things like that. And but I grew up in a village that was kind of a gang neighborhood, and so I got caught up in that. But my friends and I, we were the next generation, of the older gang members, and we decided, well, we don't want to go around and fight like they did, It doesn't sound, and get in prison and jail. So we decided we're just going to be like party people. That's going to be what we do. And of course that can get you into trouble too, which it did, which is one of the reasons why we joined the military.
All right.
So they give you an option, in the military, for 2 years you can choose your job or where you want to be stationed in wherever's available. So we said we want to see the world, we want to travel. So 5 of us chose to go to Germany, and 2 of those my friends ended up in South Korea for their tour of duty.
So you spend your time in Germany?
Yeah, about 19 months in Germany.
Actually, you were serving in the NATO kind of forces, is it? Or
I'm not sure if it was under NATO at that time. Perhaps.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was assigned to Pershing missiles, which are the mobile launch missiles. They're on the bed of a lorry. And
have you ever fired one? Or?
no, actually, my crew got to fire. They had to go back to the United States to fire from Germany. But I wasn't able to go because I was going through a court-martial at the time. I was in some trouble, and I wasn't able to leave. That's part of the story later. Maybe we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. That was Kurt in the military. Well, like every one of us, once in a while during our early lives, we too would experience something that is not really according to what the law prescribed, but then we build up our lives through those experiences, right? Yeah.
Well, the Lord was trying to make a man out of me, The military will do that, you have to get mature real fast.
All right, let's move on to the next topic, which I really am interested to talk about. Tell us about your spiritual life, and probably later on in the program, we'll go into something that you were telling me at one time about the experiences we have about the 7 thunders.
Okay.
Yeah, but for now, can you tell us a little bit about your spiritual life?
Yeah. So I didn't become a Christian until I was 28 years old. Although I had gone to church for many years, my parents never went to church when growing up, but I was able to go with some neighbors in the village there, and friends of mine would invite me to church. So I had some background as far as I heard about Jesus, heard about the 10 Commandments and things, but there wasn't enough structure there for me to find out how to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these were Sunday churches we went to.
Oh, right.
And, you know, nothing against them. They were wonderful.
Yeah, that's right. Okay,
But-
I agree.
But they didn't tell us. They said, you're not supposed to do this and you're not supposed to do that. And so, but they didn't tell us how to stop doing it. And I just,
All right.
I couldn't seem to make that connection of, you know, just, well, I have these desires and they seem to be stronger than my desire to serve God. And that's where I was at for many years.
Mm. So how did you come to know about the Seventh-day Adventist Church?
Now, this was after I moved from Los Angeles, California, up to Washington State.
Mm.
So I had been in this Washington State, actually in a little town called Moses Lake.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's a part of the story how I ended up there. It's quite unique. But just for the answer to your question, there was a I never heard of a Seventh-day Adventist, but there was a man that had a little health food store there, and I was going into his health food store to buy eggs. I wanted healthy eggs because I worked in construction at a feed factory where they manufacture eggs, produce eggs, and I thought those are not very good, healthy. So I went to this little health food store. He was a Seventh-day Adventist in there, but he never said much. He was very friendly, you know.
Mm.
Never said anything until one day I went in there and he handed me a brochure. It was for a Revelation seminar that the Seventh-day Adventists were putting on there in the town. And I looked at that and I had heard about, you know, they showed the 666 and the mark of the beast and all this, you know, the dragon and all that. And so I looked at that. I said, oh boy, I've always wondered about this. So I started attending those meetings.
Oh.
That was my first introduction to Seventh-day Adventists. Yeah.
So immediately you got it interest to you. Is it?
It was an interest, and then the Adventist people there were very friendly. The evangelist, the pastor, and right away they found out, well, you know, you should really take care of these things in your life, and they wanted me to be baptized, of course. You know, that's their goal in these, you know, this outreach. But they came with a temperance list.
Oh.
You won't do this, you won't do that, you won't do that. Oh, it was a long list. And I said, oh, I'm not ready for that.
That must have shocked you.
Oh, it shocked me. I said, if I was baptized, I'd just be a big hypocrite because I can't meet those demands at this time in my life. So I declined to be baptized, but and then what happened? I fell away, started drinking again, and you know, using drugs and things wasn't good. So you know, I would see these Adventist people from time to time in the town. Oh, how you doing? You want more Bible studies? I said, no, not yet. You know, maybe later.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't until I had a personal crisis at about 27, 28 years old that because I knew there was a right way and a wrong way, and I wasn't doing the right way. So during that personal crisis, I remember kneeling down and by myself there in my room, and I said, okay, Lord, I tried to run my own life, you know, do it my way. I've failed, obviously. So I said, I'm going to let you take over. And it's kind of strange because I felt something happen. Something happened, you know, I don't know what. But I got up from praying and I went outside and everything, it seemed like everything was, I could hear the sounds of nature, which I never heard before. And the colors were beautiful. It was like something, you know, turned on in here, and I became a completely different person at that point.
That's wonderful. That's
yeah.
wonderful. Yeah.
You talk about a conversion. It was a transformation all of a sudden.
So it actually it happened by itself after you pray, is it?
Yes.
Ah.
Nobody else around, just me. I said, God, okay, I give up. You take over now. So I started going to church at that point.
Ah.
I was still drinking,
Ah.
but after they had taught about the Sabbath, I said, maybe it's not a good idea to drink on the Sabbath. So
Yeah.
Friday night, sundown, I put my beer down. And Saturday night, sundown, I start drinking again.
Oh.
They said, well, you're not supposed to drink, but they didn't. That one they didn't show from the Bible. It's just, I said, no, it says don't get drunk. It doesn't say don't drink. It said don't get drunk. So I kept drinking until the Lord delivered me from that one. That's an interesting.
So that must have been a struggle as well, and then getting rid of those drinking.
Something I could never stop on my own. I tried many times stop drinking, and I could get a few days, and I would get nervous, and the only thing calmed me down was the alcohol, the beer. So till finally, should I tell you the little how God did that for me?
That's wonderful. I think the next part of what Kurt would be telling us is something that is very interesting, and I hope you, few fellow viewers, you would be afflicted with this part of the experience that Kurt will be telling us. Would you tell us on that?
Yeah. So this was a habit that I couldn't seem to break, but there was one thing I didn't think it was a sin to drink, right? So, but I still believed in my mind that it's a sin for somebody to make somebody else to do something that will cause somebody else to do something wrong that they think is wrong.
All right.
So there was a lady I knew, my friend's wife, and they were having some trouble in their marriage, and she went back to California from Washington State, and she got converted. She became a Christian down there. And when she came back, she said, oh, guess what? She said, I stopped drinking. And I said, oh no. Because I knew if I told her I was a Christian now too, but I still drink, it might cause her to go back to drinking. And I said, oh no. And so right away I went and I prayed. I said, God, I don't think it's a sin to drink, but if you want me to stop drinking, if you personally want me to stop, if it's best for me, then you give me a sign. So I was in my little room, where I live, and I was having my personal devotions that day, and I read in the Corinthians, I think 1 Corinthians 5, I believe it is, somewhere around there. It says, if any person is a drunkard or an adulterer or and I read that, and
they cannot go to heaven.
They can't go to heaven, it says, and I said, and I said, well, I don't know about that. And suddenly I had a big picture on the wall over here, on the wall over there. I said, I don't know what I should do about this. And suddenly the picture fell off of the wall. Fell to the floor. And
it's a picture about what?
A big painting. Big painting with a frame around it, a wooden frame and everything that was had on the wall. And I went over there and I said, why did that picture fall down right now? And I looked behind there and the string broke. And I said, I asked God if He want me to stop drinking, right? And I just read that drunkards can't go to heaven, and the picture falls off of the wall. I said, okay, Lord, I asked for a sign, right? I said, that's my sign. And I went over to my cabinet, and I had a brand new big bottle of wine, not even open yet. And I'll open it up, and I poured it down there. And that was the end of it. The Lord took away the desire. I never wanted to drink again.
So it was a dramatic change, isn't it?
Just like that.
Just like that. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that's clearly the working of the Holy Spirit. Right?
Well, I think there was an angel there that went like that and touched the picture, and
Yeah. And so
To answer the
then
prayer.
immediately from then on you stop all alcohol.
Stop drinking.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Friends, I think that's a wonderful experience we have here. If you want to have the similar experience, I think you would like to surrender your life to God,
Sure.
and probably ask for a sign, a similar sign like the sign that Brother Kurt have been asking for the Lord, and probably the Lord will change your life just as much as He has changed his life.
Yeah, the key of it is when I made the decision, I'm not going to do that anymore because God doesn't want me to. Then the power to stop arrived with the decision, see? And it's the same thing with all habits. Any habit you're trying to break, smoking, whatever it might be, you know. When we make a decision saying, no, God doesn't want me to do that, so I'm choosing not to do it. Then when you didn't have the power before to stop, it comes with your decision. You know, the Bible says, put your will in God's will. And that's where He gives the power, right there.
Amen. Yeah. Okay, we will stay with us for the next program because we are going to continue with this. And I'll have more conversation with Kurt after this, so stay with us for the next program. Okay. Hello, welcome back. And welcome back, Kurt.
Thank you.
The last part of our conversation was really interesting when you tell us about the sign that God gave you. What I'm more interested in knowing is that did you have any more problem with withdrawal symptoms, if there is any, about getting back to alcoholism after that?
Well, there's always temptations, you know. The devil doesn't leave us alone. Sometimes we get stressed out with problems or something, and we want to run back to what gives us comfort, you know. But I learned how to, when I was having this urge to go back to the wrong, like the Bible says, the dog returning to his vomit.
Okay.
Well, when I had those urges to return to the vomit, I would just drop to my knees and say, tell the Lord about it. Lord, I'm feeling this urge, you know, and you would just feel the Lord it would subside. He would take that away. But let me give you an example, because the Lord not only delivered me from alcohol at the time, but also drugs. So it wasn't long afterwards that this happened, you know, and a friend of mine who I used to take drugs with, and actually the drug supplier, they were together at the man's house, the supplier, you know, the dealer. And my friend was over there, and he was overdosed on heroin, and he was passed out and barely breathing when another mutual friend came over to my house and said, where's Danny at? And I said, well, he's, you know, over so and so's house. Let's go, I want to talk to him. We went over there, and he's barely breathing, and we shook him, and one side of his face was already paralyzed. But the dealer, you know, he didn't seem to care about that, but he came over to me and he goes, I heard you stopped using. You stopped, because I used to buy drugs from him, right?
Sounds like he was worried.
Oh yeah, he says, I heard you stopped using. I said, that's right. And he couldn't believe it, because we have a saying in amongst users, you know, once an addict, always an addict. And so, and because they could never stop, they don't believe anybody else can. And so he said, I heard you stop using. I said, yeah, that's right. I don't need it anymore. And he took out the bag, and he poured a little pile on the table, and he said, and he gave me the syringe. He says, there you go, it's free. Fix yourself up. And you know, nobody could turn that down that was an addict. You see?
Yeah.
And he couldn't.
That must have been very inviting for drug users.
Well, they actually long to have that kind of willpower, the strength, the self-control to stop. See, but they don't know how to get it either. And he didn't understand, you know, that God had delivered me or anything like that. But he said, here's some free, you know, go ahead and use it. And I said, I don't need it anymore. And, he just looked at me like, what happened? They can't believe that I was a different person now. I'm not the same person that used to come over and buy the drugs, The Bible says, if any man be in Christ, he's a new creature. You're a different person after that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful.
I get a little bit emotional.
Yeah, it's okay. Be emotional. It's all right. Let's be emotional. I think that part of the experience that we have, I think I am a bit emotional too.
Oh, okay.
So forgive my friend here. He's getting emotional, but I think this is getting inspiring for all of us, and I believe from here we can take lessons from what Kurt has experienced, and we can learn from what he has experienced in the past. Okay. Another thing.
I can give you one more story.
Can you? All right. Can we pause for a minute?
Oh, sure.
And then you give us another story.
All right.
Okay? All right.
Yeah.
So I need to switch off. And,
okay.
Okay. And then you give us that story again.
Sure.
Okay. So hang on for another story from Kurt in the later part of this program in the next video. Hello, welcome back. I am still with Kurt here, and let's continue with your life story, especially how we can gain strength, how we can maintain being in a new spiritual life experience. Could you tell us another story of yours?
Yeah, I will, because I think this is important. How to maintain that connection with the Lord. And this wasn't after I had been a Seventh-day Adventist for quite a few years already. I was planning to take a trip from Washington State back down to Los Angeles area to visit my family. And I had contacted a friend of mine, childhood friend, because I wanted to visit with him when I also went down to see my family. And when I called them up on the phone, they said, Stephen just died yesterday. My friend had just died. He had just got out of prison, and he got out and went to visit his girlfriend, and she gave him some heroin, some drugs, and he took a fix, and he sat down in the chair, and he never got up. He overdosed. He had just got out of prison that day. And so the funeral was coming up, and I told my friends, okay, I'll see you by tomorrow. And so I went down there, and we went to the funeral. And after the funeral, everybody went to my friend's house, because his brothers and his family were also my friends. And so a lot of my old friends were there, I mean, these are the people from, we've been through everything from growing up,
Oh, okay.
And everybody was there, and everybody's, of course, most of them were still drinking and things like that, and just having a few beers, and we start laughing. Everybody's laughing and talking about old times, And I just felt this strong urge. Well, it wouldn't hurt to have one beer, It was just, I felt like I was my old self again. The old Kurt. Unconverted Kurt. Yeah, the old Kurt. And I just felt this urge. Well, just have one beer and relax and laugh and have a good time with your friends. It won't hurt. And the urge was so strong that I almost gave in. But guess what happened? A little voice said, you better get out of here now. And that was it. You better leave now. So I followed that voice. I said, that's the voice of reason. That's the voice of conscience. That's the voice from God's. Where the Bible says, you will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk you in it when you're ready to turn to the left or the right. And so I was able to obey the voice and escape before I fell into temptation and sin. And this is the way we have to maintain a connection with Jesus, is don't ever deny that voice. Don't ever deny your conscience. And if you keep following that, the Lord will keep us in safe path.
Yeah. Well, that's a wonderful experience. Similarly, I think if we go back to the Garden of Eden, Eve was listening to the same voice. If she had moved away from that, I think she would have won. Thank you. I think that's a very good experience. We should learn from that experience, where whenever there is an urge to fall into temptation again, but then we should be able to listen to the inner voice, right? Inner voice. I think this is what Kurt was saying here. Inner voice where it is telling us to live.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you. That was a very good experience. I'm sure a lot of our viewers would take care of what we have been sharing here.
Hopefully it can help someone.
Yeah. Okay. I want to bring Kurt a little bit back to where we have started. Ever since you are here, have you ever felt homesick or about wanting to go back to US and all this? How do you cope with the homesickness? I'm sure you have experiences of wanting to go back, and probably later on we would like to hear your experiences about during the pandemic. I think you have,
Sure.
but let tell us about how you cope with homesickness in the first place.
Well, homesickness, is mostly an emotional attachments, vulnerable feelings that we have about what we're used to, the old ways and things. I mean, personally, it hasn't been too great a struggle because I'm very adaptable, very resilient, and I can adapt to change quite easily. But there has been some times where, I feel this tug, wanting to see, family. Actually, since I've been here, my father died about 7 or 8 years ago while I was here. I did not go back for the funeral. I don't know what it is about my life, but I've always been out of town, out of the country, overseas. When my grandfather died, I was in the military. Same thing with my grandmother and my other grandfather. And I wasn't around for those kind of gatherings that people have to go through for, like mourning, and closure and things like that. And then actually, since I've been here, my mother died. Yeah, this was just a little over a year ago. During the pandemic. During the pandemic, my mother died. And I wasn't able to. I didn't go back for the funeral. I could have. I could have, but I didn't. I didn't go back for that. And I'll tell you something. Now here's why you're saying why about adapting here and and homesickness.
It's not that you really forget there when you're okay.
No. It's the. Jesus made a statement, and they told him when they said, Jesus, your mother and your brothers are outside. They want to come in and see you. And he said to all the people that were crowded around him, this is my mother and my brother and these are, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we have to, the Bible says honor your father and your mother. And that's a principle that we can never violate. But as far as emotional attachments and things, you see what Jesus was saying? The people that love me are my family.
That's right. Yeah.
Just as much as my mother, but I respect my mother. I'll honor my mother and take care of her. But, the Bible also says, let the dead bury their dead. So I said, why do I need to go back and go to the funeral? See,
Mhm.
if I wasn't good to my mother while she was alive, I'm not going to make up for it at her funeral.
Mhm.
And so those kind of things just, I don't, most people, they think that's the most important thing. Oh, and they garnish the burial of their loved ones, their ancestors and stuff. And to me, it doesn't mean so much. I have emotional attachments here that are every bit as strong as was to my mother. As good as she was, a wonderful lady. But I have my wife here. I have my friends, the children here, and that I have a bond with that I never had in America.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Ah.
you never see the children in America come up and sit on your lap and pull your ears and pull your nose and all that like they do here.
Oh.
It's such a wonderful experience here.
So it's a connection that is really attached to you, isn't it?
Yeah.
That you didn't have before.
And I'll tell you why. Is over the years, 40 years I've been a Christian, and through all my studies and I studied very carefully about human personality, human psychology, and through all my studies I've come to realize, and I used to tell my students over at the secondary school that in the judgment it's not going to be, the Lord's not going to be saying, oh, you did this wrong and you did that wrong and you broke that. No, it's going to be He's going to be looking at our life and saying, how was your relationship with your mother? How was your relationship with your brother, your child? How was your relationship with your neighbor, your church member? See, it's all, the whole basis of the judgment is, how is our relationship? Does anybody have a quarrel with you? See, that's what He's going to look at. Did you make everything right? When I went to that funeral, when my friend had overdosed, I saw people there that I had done bad things to in the past. And it was just the perfect opportunity to say, I'm sorry for what I did to your family, to your family. Please forgive me.
Oh, you
I
actually,
did that.
You
I
actually
did that. You bet I did.
Wow, it's a wonderful reconciliation.
Absolutely. I worked for a man at a little kadai, a little grocery store, for many years. And when I first started working there, I was stealing from him. I would put beer in the trash can when I go out to empty the trash outside, and then after hours when he was gone, I wouldn't go back and get the beer. I was stealing, see? 19 years later, when I became a Christian, I wrote a letter. I'm sorry, I confess. And I wrote him a check for the money. Here, and I sent it to him. And actually, for the full amount. And I saw him a few years later, and I said, "Hey, did you get my letter and everything?" And he said, "Oh yeah." He says, "I knew you were stealing from me and all." But he said, "I forgive you and all this." But we have to make things right. We have to go back.
How did it make you feel when you wrote that letter, and later on when you personally met him? How did that make you feel after that?
Well, here's the thing. My responsibility to that man that I used to work for is I'm responsible for his salvation, as far as I'm concerned. Once I become a Christian, the Lord told Abraham, "In you will all the families of the earth be blessed." That means, we have an obligation to go back to the people in our lives that we have an interest in and that have been in contact with, to let them know, I'm not the same person anymore, and I found something better, and you can have the same thing. So that's the reason, not just to get my record cleared in heaven, but to give a testimony to the man. He's a Catholic man, I think, and I don't know what's become of him now. He did good in life. He made a lot of money, and but we're good friends after that.
So that must have made you feel a lot better.
Oh, yes.
took away some load.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It takes off a big load.
So during the funeral, you were able to reconcile with a lot of people.
Oh yeah, there was a lady there and her daughter, and I used to buy drugs from her husband, the father of the girl, and this lady's husband. And they were both there at the funeral, and they knew what I was talking about when I said I'm sorry. I disrespected, because they had told me at the time when I was buying drugs from them. They knew what I was doing. They said, you know, you know, we watched you grow up, and now look what you're doing to our family, you know. And because the father ended up getting assassinated, murdered, because he wasn't doing his job properly, selling drugs. So, you know, those kind of things, you can't turn back the clock, but you can,
all right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Right.
Make things right now.
Make things right.
I wrote many letters to people that I had to make things right. Yeah.
Well, we are supposed to make things right. You know.
As far as we can, you know.
Yeah, as far as we can.
Yeah.
Well, that was, I think, the most wonderful part of my conversation with Kurt, and I'm sure what he had been sharing with me here and sharing with you all here are something that really would help us as well whenever we have problem, and when we have wronged somebody. If we have the opportunity, I think it would be most uplifting if we take the opportunity of reconciling with those people. Yeah. There's another thing I would like you to tell us. While you were here, now what activities actually? Because now this is a village here. This is a village, and I'm sure your father-in-law here has some coconut plantation and some land to grow vegetable. How do you able to cope with all that?
You know, I like working, so you know, I just jumped right in and started helping my father-in-law. You know, cutting the grass in the paddy and things like that. And you know, I tried to adapt myself to the lifestyle here. It's one thing to visit a country, you know, and a sightseeing tour, but it's another thing to live with the people and learn their ways and find out, you know, their joys, their hardships. So, you know, there's you know, the local people here, the village people, you know, they have their little problems and different things. I've tried to learn how to, you know, relieve suffering and, you know, discomfort, you know, pain and whatever it is, disease, you know, with as simple as possible, you know. And there was people that came here, you know. I'll give you one example. There was the man, he was the head village here. He came and he had twisted his ankle or something, doing something, and he said, oh, you know, can you help me? So I forget what I did. I wrapped it with some charcoal or something, you know. Very simple, and wow, it worked. It relieved his pain, and after that he was always very friendly, very thankful. Well, he ended up contracting cancer, and he was dying there, and he was at home. They sent him home from the hospital, you know, to die. And we went to visit him, you know, and he was in some bad discomfort, you know. He hadn't been able to have a bowel movement for, almost 2 weeks, they said. And it was all, you know, but he was still eating regularly. And so it was all here, very discomfort. And I thought, you know, I'm not going to cure this guy's cancer or anything, but we could just relieve some of his present suffering. So I went in and gave him an enema. It wasn't easy, you know, a makeshift bottle and a hose, and we gave him an enema, you know, with a coffee enema. And, you know, we prayed for him and everything like that.
So he was able to relieve him?
Well, this is what happened. You know, I left and nothing had happened. And I went back and I said, Lord, you know, we're trying to show these people a better way. So, you know, I guess about, maybe a half an hour after I left. Because the next time I went to go visit him, he said, "Oh," he said, "after you left," somebody was translating for me, of course. After you left, he said, it all came out. He said about 2 kilos, he said. So he felt better, you know, and he ended up, you know, he died a few days later. But actually, they said I wasn't in town. I was out of town. But they said my father was calling for you just before he died. Mm-hmm. I don't know what he wanted to say, but you know. You know, we form an attachment with people, you know, when we help them through their things like that. And you know, I've tried to help different people in the compound at different times, sometimes successful, sometimes not.
I understand in your spiritual walk, in your sharing and all that, you do a kind of alternative medicine or something. Could you tell us?
Well, you know, the Lord used some. Of course, all he had to do was lay his hands on people, you know, and they were healed, of course. And but you know, the Lord encouraged us to use natural remedies, things that you know, that don't harm the body, and in the process of trying to make us better, right? So, yeah, I've tried to study the local herbs. I had some background from, you know, Western style herbs and things like that, and we had some actually some quite amazing experience with the natural remedies. You know, I was working with a local doctor here for a few months, and we had people coming in, and they had a choice. Would you want, you know, traditional, or you want, you know, drug therapy? Take your choice. So if they wanted, you know, some natural, the doctor would refer them over to
you,
to me. You know, so we had an opportunity. I had a lot of head knowledge and not so much experience, but you know, let's try it out. You know, people say it works, so we tried things and they worked. You know, there was one man, not of our religion, came in, and he had a open sore on his leg that wouldn't heal up. So you know, well, let's fix something up, and we'll put some. So I mixed up some charcoal and some clay, you know, and I forget what else, some herbs in there, you know, and I was going to apply it to his wound. And before I did, you know, I took a spoonful of it, and he went like that, you know. And I said, look, if you can't eat your medicine as well, you know, if your medicine is too dangerous to eat, maybe you shouldn't be using it. And he was just like that, you know. And I said, hey, by the way, can we pray together, you know, about this? And yeah, okay, you know. And so we prayed together, you know. And he's not from our religion, but he saw the connection with this method and God. There, see. Whereas if you just take some, here's your prescription, you know, you take some strong medication, they don't see the connection with the healing and the prayer and everything like that. So it's a good avenue to invite people to, you know, here's what I believe, you know, kind of thing.
There's another way of introducing them to God.
I mean, do you have time for a couple of stories?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right. Can I check the battery?
Yes, absolutely.
And we'll have another story.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, stay with us. We will have more stories in the next video with Kurt here. Just stay with us. I am still with Kurt here. He will have more stories to share with us. But the most important thing is, as I share, or as Kurt share his story with me and with Asia, let us remember that in all our lives, it is God that is important.
Yeah.
To connect us.
God gets the glory, not people, right?
Yeah. So whatever experiences that Kurt has gone through, it is all the working of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So Kurt, you have more interesting stories to tell us.
Well,
could you go on?
Just to encourage people, you know, that that God's way does work. It is, you know, it's the best way. And I'll give you a couple of examples of people that were helped, you know, quite simply. So there was one lady. We were at a wedding, actually. One of your relatives, I think it is. Their children. Anyway, so I was looking out, and there was a lady that was coming, like, just walking, having a hard time walking. Somebody was supporting her, an old lady, and she was looking for a ride. They were going to give her a ride to the hospital, emergency, and so they finally helped her up and to get in the back of the truck. And I asked somebody, "What's going on over there?" "Oh, she's having heart pain, So I jumped on my moto, and I came back to the house here, and I got my little vial of it's called antispasmodic tincture.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a little bottle of liquid drops, made from herbs. And I raced back over there, and they hadn't left yet. The driver was still getting ready, and the lady was laying down in the back of the lorry. It had a bench. It was a transport lorry for take people. So she was just laying in the back, and of course I didn't speak anything, and I said, "Are you okay?" or something like that. She said, "Oh, like that." And I said, "Oh, I have some ubat here. Would you want, chuba ubat?" "Oh, yeah." And so she thought I was gonna put the ubat on her chest area. So she lifted up her shirt like that. And I said, "Oh, no." So, and I said, "No, in your mouth, like that." And I just gave her a few drops of this. It's a very strong potion. And so I just give her a few drops under her tongue, and then I went back up. My job is done.
Okay.
I don't remember if I said a prayer, maybe prayed, but I went back up, and I was watching from across the street, and a few minutes later, she jumps out of the back of out of the lorry, and she runs and she jumps up into the cab, and she sits next to the driver, and they take off like that. And I think it was the next day or something. I saw the driver, and it's one of your relatives actually.
Oh yeah.
And I said, "Hey, what happened to that lady? You took her to the hospital the other night." "Oh, she was all right," he said. Nothing wrong with her. So when I was working for the doctor over there, we had somebody come in. They brought her in a wheelchair, and she was having a bad problem. And he put her on the ultrasound, and we could see she had one of her valves was fibrillating, so she wasn't, her heart wasn't pumping the blood, and the doctor was just wondering what to do, and he called me and he says she was actually about to die. He says, "Kurt," he says, "I'm losing her. What do I do? What do we do? I'm losing her. We may lose her right now." And I brought out that little bottle, and we went in there. I said, "Put a squirt of an eye dropper of this under her tongue." And so I didn't go in. I didn't go in because the family was in there. I just stayed back for privacy reasons and stuff. But I could see the nurse. The nurse was on the other side, and she was watching what the doctor was doing. So the doctor put some of this under her tongue, and I'm looking at the nurse, and I'm saying like this, "What's happened? Anything happening yet?" And the nurse is just looking at me like and laughing. So finally, they were going to send her home with some ubat, some natural ubat, and so they said, "Okay, let us help you. Let us help you back up into your wheelchair." They told the old lady, and she goes, "Get out of the way. I can do it myself." And she went there. I mean, that fast.
Wow.
That fast. And we sent her home with some stuff. Within 2 weeks, they said that she's back working in the garden and everything. She came back in. No more fibrillation. The heart, put her back on the ultrasound. No more heart fibrillation. That valve was working perfectly after that. Yeah, very simple herb remedy.
So in this is they call it, the official term is alternative medicine.
Yeah.
Well, so you are still helping with a lot of people here with this. No, I mean, when people comes to you, or
Not
you
very
see
many people. Not very many people are showing up.
Yeah, you see people in need of help. So
Yeah,
you-
it's just you know, most people are, they know about it here. They know about alternative, but they've become accustomed to, you know, uh, the scientific way, which is, you know, has its place. Absolutely. So, you know, I don't. That doesn't happen all the time anymore like that. But you know, I use it on myself.
Yeah.
I cured my own problems that way.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. The Lord cured me of liver disease with natural way. Yes. Yeah.
So do you intend to use that to assist the people, especially the villages here?
I'm stocking up.
Oh.
I'm stocking up. I ordered hundreds of dollars worth of herbs from. You know, I know about the herbs here. I've used the herbs here, but it's like David in the Bible. Remember, they said, here's Saul's sword. You go take it and you go fight, because he didn't have his own sword. And he goes, I'm not accustomed to it.
Okay.
So I feel that way with the local herbs.
Okay.
So, but you know, the Western herbs, they're not exclusively Western. Some of them actually grow here locally. You know, so they work here for the people. And so I'm stocking up, because I think the day is coming when people are going to have no other choice.
Yeah.
You know, troublous times are coming, you know, maybe economic turmoil, and people maybe be turning back to this method. So I'm getting prepared for that.
Yeah. Oh, this is very important, because you see, we are told in the Bible that there are hard times ahead of us. There are times when we will not be, things that are readily available now will not be that as readily available in the future. So these are the things that you are doing. Actually, it helps us to prepare for the future. Could you tell us a little bit about it, and then probably how we can get people to be prepared for any situation in the future?
Well, you know something, there's a very clear example for us in the Bible, and that is the life of Joseph. You know, he had people did him wrong, but you know, he had a kind spirit about him, a forgiving spirit. And Jesus said, you know, if your enemies are thirsty, give them something to drink, or if they need, you know, clothing, whatever. So, and Joseph ended up doing that, and he prepared for the future. There's nothing wrong with that, you know, because you can put yourself in a position to help people that are not paying attention, and it's going to catch them by surprise, perhaps. And at that time, we won't be hoarding stuff, you know, for ourselves. We'll be sharing it, and at that time will be a good time to tell them about the Lord. It's another way to share, you know, the spiritual truth by giving them things that will help their physical needs. So yeah, we try to put aside little extra, you know, for what emergency purposes and stuff like that. You know, I decided when I left the U.S., I told my parents, take a good look at me, because I'm not coming back. And as far as they're concerned, you know, I didn't make it back to ever see them again. And so, over the years that I've been here, which is what, 10 years now, I decided this is where I'd like to ride it out to the end. I'd like to be with these people here. You know, America has plenty of people that can help each other over there, but here, not so much. Not so much. You know, people are friendly and stuff, but a lot of people are just getting by. You know, they don't have extra to share with others. So I would like to be here when the final time of trouble comes. I don't know what that's going to involve. You know, I actually made preparations in U.S. Yeah, I have a place up in the mountains, you know, and stocked, you know, and for the time of need. But maybe somebody else will need that. Well, we don't know the future. Of course,
Yeah,
the Lord will
that's
say,
right.
no, you're going here, you're going there. But as far, I always said, you know, when I came here, I didn't just say, I'm going. I asked God, can I go to Borneo?
That's
And the Lord answered me very specifically. It would take quite a little amount of time to tell how that all came together. Why, you know, how I know God is saying this or He's not. You know, what is this voice? How do you know it's God's voice? And these signs, like I talk about these signs, there's a way to know, you know, if this is God's leading or not, because we don't want to run ahead of God. We don't want to fall behind. We want to be in the right place at the right time. Then we know we have God's presence and His blessing and protection. So it's very, very crucial. This is something I want to share with people, and it's going to become very valuable to people that have a wise listening ear in the very near future. How to know the voice of God and His leading.
So actually what you are telling me is that what you can do is not just physical assistance, but spiritual and as well as other aspect of social culture that is required, that you think you can help with the people around here.
Well, yeah, because Jesus opened up the way to meet their spiritual needs by providing for their physical needs. You know, He did more healing than preaching. But it sure made a difference. You know, you can talk to people and they say, yeah, that sounds good, but it doesn't really, they don't apply it personally until they find out you're a friend and you really care about them. Then they say, you know, he's more than just talk. You know, it's not like most people where they say one thing but it doesn't mean anything. You know, so by taking an interest in people, they'll listen to what you have to say after that. That's what I'm hoping for. In the U.S., you know, it was easy to give a piece of literature to somebody, Christian literature, or, you know, give a hitchhiker a ride. But here it's been more difficult to, what I want to say, witness to people, because I'm more of an outsider, you know. Well, that's his opinion, but he's coming from another, you know. So, you know, they're looking at me, but they're not quite sure, you know, how come everybody else isn't saying the same things this person is saying, you know. Maybe it's just because he's a foreigner. So I'm trying to overcome that that separation by getting close to the people. And it takes time, it takes years. So I'm hoping it will bear fruit, you know, soon.
Okay. Yeah, I have 3 more items to ask you.
All right, good.
First thing, the third last is, how were you able to cope with the language problem? I can hear, just now you were talking to one of my brother-in-law. I was amazed as how you spoke to him. I don't know whether you spoke to him in English and in Malay. I am also equally amazed as how my brother-in-law talked back to you.
Oh, yeah.
So, how was the conversation like? You know, because after 10 years, you're still struggling with the local dialect. Can you tell us how you cope up with the language problem?
Well, you know, I lived in a few different countries. Like I said, I lived in Germany for a year and a half. And I didn't make much effort there to learn the language. But then I lived in Romania for over a year. And that time I made the effort to learn the language. And my pastor over there, he just told me, he says, if you can learn 200 words of the vocabulary of the other language, you can get by. You can go and you can carry on business and go shopping and do what you need to do. Just learn 200 words. And it worked. He took the time to explain the grammar to me. And that really helped. But here I said, well, if I can learn 200 words, you know, the people will at least get an idea of what I'm talking about. So that's what we were doing with your nephew. See, you know, of course they say love is a universal language, right? So if you really have regard for somebody,
Uh-huh.
and if they're really paying attention, you get the idea of what they're saying. It might be not exactly, but you know they
No, you learn.
enough to.
I can imagine. You learn to understand it through the
Gestures
through the
and
body language.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
because you will have a problem here because there are two languages you need to identify with. One is the national language, which is the Malay language, and you also have to listen to the local language. And by the way, in this part where Kurt here is saying, most of the community here are speaking the Rumus dialect. So I was telling Kurt here, while he is trying to adapt to the national language, which is the Malay language, he also has to listen to the local language, local dialect, which is the Rumus dialect. So do you have a problem with that?
Yes, I do. A big problem. So, you know, I've been trying to hear, when I was young, you know, I would hear something and I only have to hear it once. And it was completely in my memory. I had a real strong memory. In school, I didn't hardly need to read the books because I just listened to the lecture and, you know, the teacher's saying what's going to be on the test anyway. So I just listened what they pay attention in class and I was getting really good grades. But down the years, now my memory is not so strong anymore. Part of it was the damage I did with the drugs and alcohol. In only 12 years, I really probably cut my memory in about 50%. So I'm struggling to memorize words here. They go right through. But I have to do it over and over, write it down, spell it, look up the meaning, translate it, and finally and use it in conversation, and then I might stick. I probably have a couple of hundred words.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, memorized. But after 10 years, I should be speaking fluent, at least Malay, right? But it doesn't work for me anymore. So yes, it's a big problem.
Yeah, I understand now they have given you some responsibility in the church. I think with more responsibility in the church, you will have more time to mingle with the church member, and then probably by then you can add more vocabularies.
Yes, every little bit helps. You know, when I had been here for a couple of years, they came to me and asked me to teach at the primary schools.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah,
and I was really learning from these little kids. You know, I just watch them and what are they doing? And they have punya, and so punya, what does that mean? Oh, this is mine. So I would learn because the children speak very simply. It was good learning from them. But then
impromptu, you know.
Yeah, very impromptu. Just watching them, and you know, there's a lot of different ways you can learn, but in the church, yes, if I'm going to prepare a talk or something, you know, I put it in English and then I'm going to translate it so that I can show them on the screen, you know, here's the English, here's this, and you know, even if I have a translator, you know, sometimes they struggle making the translation. So every little bit here, one word a week even will be 52 words a year.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
But the hardest part now is putting it into sentences. I can learn the noun, kata. What do you say? How do you say noun? Kata.
Sekarang.
Yeah, but I mean, like a verb is kata kerja.
Kata kerja.
And a noun is kata.
Kata nama.
Kata nama. So I'm trying to put them together, the verbs and the nouns, you know, and make sentences. I'm sure it sounds like what we would call pidgin English. You know,
yeah.
You know, it doesn't make good sense, but the people can understand it.
It's okay. No, because English in Asia or in Southeast Asia has evolved actually. Like you have Singlish for Singapore English, you have Malglish for Malay English. So it doesn't really matter how good you can speak the local language. even if you mix it with your English, for as long as you can, you can communicate. I think, for as long as you can communicate. Okay, the other thing, could you tell us a little bit about your experience when you were teaching in the church school, right?
Yes,
the mission school.
Our Christian denomination has our schools, and after a while with the young primary school students, at that time I didn't feel like I was accomplishing anything. They would just run around and they weren't paying attention, and I couldn't seem to get control of them. So and then I had an opportunity to go work with that doctor. So I quit that. But then after I wasn't working with the doctor anymore, I said, well, I'd like to teach the older children. Maybe they're more disciplined, they pay more attention, can get something across and feel like I'm accomplishing something. So I went over there to the school and I asked, 2 or 3 times I went over there, I wanted to apply to be a teacher. Oh yeah, we would love to have you, but our budget, budget. And I understand that, but so I could go into the story of how I ended up getting that, or I can go into more experiences with the students. But it's actually, all of it is an answer to prayer. I finally said, Lord, they won't commit. They want me, but they won't commit. And I said, I'm going to go one more time. And the Lord was teaching me at that time. Peter said, add to your faith virtue, and to your virtue knowledge, and to knowledge temperance, patience, and then goes on. It's stepping stones. The Lord was teaching me about persistence, which would be endurance. And so I said, okay, Lord, I'm going to go one more time. But this time I didn't go directly to the school. I went to the church they're associated with the school. And, a girl that just had come back from U.S. and graduated from university, one of our universities, she came over to translate for me the sermon and they were talking about something that I said, this isn't what I'm looking for here. And I just, about midway through the service, I said, excuse me, but I'm leaving. I just told her like that abruptly, and I got up and walked out, right in front of everybody. And I stand out like what we call a sore thumb, So everybody saw that, and somebody in the congregation said, why isn't this man teaching at our school? Just out of the blue like that. And they went to the principal, I think that day or shortly thereafter, and said, we'd be willing to sponsor him to work at your school. And so they invited me on, and the Lord answered the prayer. Be persistent. That's what He was trying to teach me. I had just read 2 biographies of people that exhibited persistence in their life, and they became successful. And these are important qualities that Lord wants us to have in our character. We're told that we need to have the active and sterner Christian virtues, as well as the passive virtues of love and peace and joy, which are the fruits and virtues, But we also need energy, force, perseverance, and courage in order to balance out, to make us strong Christians. And so the Lord puts us through these trials and to test us. And so that's something I needed to learn at that time. So, I was trying to convey to my students, because I was teaching English and Bible, how to have a strong, relationship with the Lord, and that we need to overcome our sins. We're not going to just slide right into heaven, We can't keep sinning and just say, Lord will forgive me, Lord will forgive me, and think we can take that kind of a character into heaven. And I met with a lot of opposition from the students, actually, unfortunately. They didn't see it that way. They haven't been taught that way. And so what I was saying to them was strange and new. And so they're not ready to accept it. But there's always 1 or 2 out of 100, right? that is really, you don't even know if they're paying attention. But I would get these little messages, you know, these little on WhatsApp, you know, and they would ask a very, very potent question, you know, about how do we get to that place, you know, and I would have an opportunity to answer some of them, and now they've gone their ways, you know, I don't have contact with them anymore, but it was just that one little opportunity, because they knew, and I'm not saying anything derogatory about anybody, but sometimes they want to go to somebody that, you know, it's not the normal avenue for that they would go to for help. You know, the children don't always go to the parents to ask advice. They don't always go to the pastor or the elder. Sometimes they want somebody, an outsider that nobody knows about this communication, but it's a third party kind of type of a thing, where they feel I can trust this person, and it's more or less anonymous, and so they'll ask those important questions. You know, how do I make this connection? You know, and it's just right at the right time, the right thing at the right time to be there for somebody when they're searching, and the Lord's trying to establish that connection with them. You know, trying to bring them up, step up that ladder, also. But I was trying to get the students to have some faith in God, and how to, we're told that the way to get to know God, because Jesus said when He comes, there's going to a lot of people say that they know Him, but He's going to say, but I don't know you. And so how can that be, you know? How can they think they know God, and God says, but I don't know you? So there's no connection there for some reason. So we're told that the way to know God is by proving His promises. You know, if somebody asks you, how do you know the Bible's true? Well, because, you know, a lot of people believe it. That's not good enough. You say, right, because I've proved the promises and found them to be true. Right. And so I tried to instill this on my students, and I said, look, the way you do it is you get a promise that fits this situation you have, whatever it might be. The promise needs to apply to that situation, and then you read the promise back to God, because the Bible is a two-way communication. God is speaking to us, and we're to speak to God back through His Word by repeating it back to Him and saying, Lord, you said here that this and this and this. Oh, the Lord loves to hear that. The Lord loves to hear that. They're putting faith in my Bible, in my Word. See, so I was telling students about that, and I said, does anybody here have a situation that we can pray about? We'll find a promise that fits the situation, any troubles, anything. Well, you know how it is, these stoic Asians, you know, they sit there like this, not me, I'm not going to say nothing, you know. So I just got frustrated. I would get so discouraged and frustrated. Nobody will participate and say, you know, nobody will admit or confess or anything around here. I said, this is so different from U.S., you know, from the Americans. They're open about everything.
So you're looking at a very Asian kind of...
Yes, people are very private
society,
here, you know, right? Correct. Because, and for good reason. But anyway, after I walking from the class, you know, class is over, one of the students, a girl, come running after me. Sir! So I don't want to say in class, but I have a little situation at home. My little sister, she ate a coin, a 10-cent piece. She ate it, and we took her to the doctor, and they see it in there, but they don't want to do surgery. They said, let's wait a few days. You know, the one doctor wanted to do surgery, but the other doctor came and said, nah, let's hold off a little bit. And I said, okay, you know, how old is your little sister? And she told me, and I said, okay, I'll go back to my room. I'll find a promise that fits that situation, and then I'll kneel down. I said, what's your little sister's name? And I'll put her name in the promise and read it back to God. Lord, you promised. I ask you to fulfill your promise. I believe you will fulfill your promise. In fact, I thank you for having done it already. And you know, the next time we had class, I don't remember, I think it was the next day or something, we had class again. And I walked into the classroom, and the same student came up to me and she goes, "Sir," I mean, she just let me get in the door, and she says, "Sir, did you pray about that?" I said, "Yes, I did." And I showed her the promise in the Bible that the Lord said, and this is something that whatever promise was in the Bible, we can apply to ourselves. Doesn't matter who it was originally spoken to. So Jesus had said, "Don't you know that what goes into the mouth comes out the drought, out of the other end?" And so I prayed that for the little girl. And so the student came up to me and she says, and I told her about the promise, and she goes, "Is that why that happened?" I said, "What happened?" She says, "As soon as I got home," she said, "it had already come out in the toilet." And so you see, the Lord fulfilled the promise for the little girl, and because the Lord was trying to instill faith into the students. Yeah, and then another student came up to me.
Simple promise, isn't it?
Very simple. Look, and the doctors wanted to do surgery, or put something down there and extract it. You see, the Lord is waiting for us to put faith in His promises. And it doesn't always work like that. But here's another example. Another boy came up to me, and he says, "Sir, can you pray about something for me?" "Sure. What is it?" He says, "Me and my younger brother, we just don't get along. We fight, we can, it's terrible." He says, I don't know what to do anymore." And I said, "Sure, I'll go find a promise, and I'll claim it for you and your brother. What's your brother's name?" And so it was about a week that went by, and I saw him again. I think it was in class, and he says, "Sir, did you remember to pray?" No, I asked him. I said, "Hey, how are you and your brother getting along?" And he said, "You know something?" He says, "This whole week we haven't been fighting at all, and we get along just great now." You see how the Lord had claimed a promise, the Lord will bring peace between them. And sure enough, I mean, look at that. We can heal relationships. We can heal physical problems just by a word of prayer to God, So it happens many times.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a wonderful experience. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
I'm sure you all have been blessed with experience. I want to go to the next question, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
I am getting a bit personal here, but if you don't mind.
All right.
But first of all, how did you cope with the dietary system? I mean, because American food and our local food, I know you are a vegetarian, but did that help you in the aspect?
When I first came here, I started exhibiting symptoms of, like when I had my liver disease.
Yeah.
And I thought, what's going on here? I mean, what's different about here that I'm having these problems again? Well, the first thing I found out was I was dehydrated. And it was affecting my liver already, just within a short time. And so most people don't drink enough water. And the Lord just showed me, you better just start pouring the water down. And sure enough, the symptoms cleared up. But then, as far as the diet, it's a real struggle for me. Back home I had such a variety.
You don't have wheat, you have potato, you have all this. Here you don't have much to choose from.
It's either rice and vegetables or vegetables and rice. See, maybe me once in a while, right?
All right.
So it's really a struggle for me. In fact, you talked earlier. You asked me about homesickness. Well, mostly it's about food, the homesickness. But what we've tried to do here is we have tried to get more variety. Thankfully, God has provided, so because it's expensive. I can understand why the people, don't get enough variety around here. But they're also not taking advantage of what they could.
What is available? Yeah.
We watch the papaya trees. The papaya fruit is getting ripe, and the birds are eating it. And I said, why aren't the owners? That's such a healing fruit, that papaya. And the coconuts, why aren't they drinking the coconut? So we need to take advantage. In fact, they say, and we're told also through counsel, that wherever you go, eat the local food. Don't try to get imported this and imported that. Because the climate, the temperature and different things are adapted for this, the food that grows naturally is adapted for health for this area, for this environment. So yeah, just eat local and as much healthy food as you can. I watch them, when they slash and burn and then spray and then plant, and the cycle is repeated over and over again. I said, that can't be very good. They spray and then they plant immediately afterwards. So we've tried to avoid, of course in the Tamu you buy your food, and you don't know how it was, but if you don't know, you just have to. That's why we pray over our food, right? So, but if you know something was raised, not so healthfully, then avoid that, and we do. We try to.
Have you tried to grow your own food here?
Yes. Yeah, we have. It's a lot of work. It's very hard.
It's totally different.
Oh boy. Yeah. You really have to. The weeds are terrible here. You have to stay right on top of it all the time. And we tried growing things. We brought seeds from America that we tried growing here. They just won't make it. I think everybody's tried everything they could here, and only what can make it because of the intensity of the sun.
The weather, and because in Sabah actually you can only plant certain kind of crops at certain places, because I came from another part of Sabah and my wife came from this part of Sabah, so there's cultural differences in as far as how we plant our food. I think you find that quite difficult here.
That's something I'm working on, as far as preparing for the future is going to be learning to grow good crops, It's not easy right here, but we're working towards that, The thing that you have really nice around here is you can get melons all year round.
Oh, yeah,
that's really, you don't probably understand how healing that is. There was a lady in the hospital was dying from multiple sclerosis, and they were feeding her. She couldn't even eat anymore because she was paralyzed from the multiple sclerosis. And she told her husband, she said, I'm tired of this. She said, I'm going to try something different. Still in the hospital with all the tubes up. She said, just bring me watermelon. And the watermelon, they could force it, they could squeeze it and force it down her mouth. She couldn't chew or anything, but they just started giving her watermelon. Just watermelon. That's all. Watermelon. Within 2 weeks, she was out of the hospital.
Wow.
And living a normal life. So raw foods, you have melons all year round here. Take advantage of that if you can. Instead of sending your kids 1 ringgit to go buy a soda pop, save every day. Save those till you have 5 ringgits, 10 ringgit. Go buy them a nice watermelon. Get it nice and cold in the asphalt.
By the way, do you have a message for our viewers in as far as local food are concerned, like watermelon? Could you tell our viewers about this food that?
I used to work for a melon farmer in America. He was a Japanese American, and he used to grow the biggest, best water. These things weighed like 20 kilos.
Oh,
just huge. And I was working for him, and he would let us, if we were loading the trucks, and we could just eat all the watermelon we want. And so we would just take a great big ripe watermelon and just break it open and just eat the heart. No seeds in the heart, right in the middle. And we would just, as much as we could. And it's really, really, really good for you. In fact, eat the seeds with it.
Oh.
Yeah, eat the seeds. The seeds are like little shovels. I learned this from going to seminars and lectures from doctors, scientists, from our own denomination. They said, eat the seeds when you eat your fruit, the watermelon anyway. They're like little shovels that clean out the debris that gets, that accumulates. That's what they told us. Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Chew them up a little bit.
So let's start eating melon and the seeds, huh?
You can eat the seeds.
Okay.
They don't taste bad. The papaya seeds don't taste very good.
Okay, that's good news for us. I think it's a good start to go local. We don't have to buy all the imported fruits to be able to get enough fruits.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Final. I want to be more personal this time.
Okay.
You came here. You get married here.
Yeah.
How did you find your wife?
When I came here, I was going through a personal crisis, and I was at a very kind of a low ebb, low tide type of thing in my life. Just needed some encouragement, some emotional support, at that time. And I prayed about it a lot. I came as a missionary, but I said, Lord, if there's a nice lady there that loves you, that can join, we can join forces together and work for you together, that would be really splendid. And so, actually, I had gone to China 2 times with my job from America. They sent me to China, and over there I met he was the manager in a 5-star hotel, international hotel, and he's the one. He said, if you're looking for a good wife, he says, you gotta go to Southeast Asia to find you a wife. And he was married to a Philippine lady, I believe it was. And so then when I was looking for a place to go for a missionary
trip, huh?
Yeah, and when they said Borneo, I said, hey, Malaysia. Hey, that guy said Malaysia, Indonesia, that. And I said, okay, so maybe, I don't know what the Lord has in store for me, but let's see. So we came here, and they assigned me to this local church here. So the first night, we went into the church and we had our, service. And after the service, we're getting ready to leave, right? Go back to our homestay there. But there's a line of people standing in front. They said, "Oh, are you married?" The people here from the local church. They're all saying, "Oh, are you married?"
They were asking you.
They asked me, and I said, "Well, no. I'm not married at present." And so then most of the people left except all the single ladies. They were just standing there like smiling, and so I'm looking like, what's going on here, because I've never seen anything like that happen since. I haven't seen them do that to any of the other foreigners that have come here.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, so I noticed one girl here, one lady was taking care of the music.
The laptop.
The laptop and all that. All that. Okay. But the next day, they said, "Oh, we're switching you to another church." So they sent me over to Parapat Church.
Oh, yeah.
And on the second night, and they said, "We want you to go over there now." Well, I got over there, and the person that I was with, you know, from America,
Ah.
didn't like the way I was sharing. I was sharing the health topic,
Ah.
and she said, "Oh, you took too long, and you this and that, and you know." And I came back to the lady in charge, and I said, "Hey, can you switch me back to the Nangka church again?" I said, "You know, well, I didn't tell her I had already noticed one of the ladies over here, right?"
Okay. All right.
But so
Okay.
you know, I mean, look, whether it would have worked out or not, I'm here for the Lord first of all, and it happened so it did work out. You know, the Lord had pity on me. So, but you know, we're not really. That shouldn't be our main focus. Well, I'm going to say I'm a missionary, but I'm actually just looking for a wife. You know, these kind of motives don't really work well for
don't fit in.
No, that's not God's way. But you know, if we put Him first, then He always has a blessing for us.
That's right. That's right.
Always.
Yeah.
Doesn't the Bible say that God says, "I will give you the desires of your heart"?
Yeah.
You devote yourself to my ways, I will give you the desire of your heart. And so He can read our heart. We don't even have to say what it is, and He's already looking in there, right? So He rewards those, not that we deserve it, but God is just that way. He rewards those that diligently seek Him. And so, yeah, you know, I saw this, my wife, I saw her the next time, you know, in the church, and I tried to talk to her, but you know, she was kind of
very private.
Well, yeah, she was just like you know,
timid.
very, you know, not saying much at all, kind of avoiding me. So I said, well, I won't take that as a negative. I'll just keep trying. You know.
Okay.
So I just finally I said, hey, do you have you know, you have? She asked me, oh, I think it was the first night, do you have Facebook? I said, no, I have email though. But you know, I never received any email or nothing. So we'd go into the service and I'd say, hey, what did you do today? Went swimming in the river. I said, wow, I want to go swimming in the river, you know. And but anyway, it didn't get any further than that. And so I said, my time was running out here, you know, I wasn't making much headway. And I said, it was the last Sabbath, the last time, and then we were leaving the next day. So I had to, you know, we need to be...
You have to connect.
Well, yeah, so I was formulating a plan, see? So when everybody else went home, we were going to have another meeting in the afternoon. And I said, this time I'm not going back to the homestay, I'm going to stay here at the church. You know, and wait until the afternoon service when the people, the rest of the people come back. So I said, but what I'm going to do, because I knew my wife lived here, right? We're only not far from the church.
A few steps away. Right?
So here's my plan. Along about, I'll give it a few minutes, and then I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to walk right past her house and see what happens. And I did. And you know, I didn't notice anything unusual. I just went walking. Next thing I know, after about 10 minutes, she came in a car, a vehicle with one of the other ladies from the church, the head elder's wife. And both of them, they're just driving, and they see me walking. They said, where are you going? Because they know I don't know my way around here. They said, where are you going? I said, oh, I'm just walking. I said, where are you guys going? They said, oh, we're just driving. And they said, you want to go with us? Yeah, sure. And so I jumped into the pickup, and we went to somebody's house, the elder's house, and I was able to, connect a little bit more
with them, yeah.
and study this girl. I was studying her character because I didn't have enough time to get to know her, you know, because this takes time to know somebody well enough to, you know. You take a big step like marriage, and you find out you're stuck with somebody that you don't get along with.
The wrong one.
The wrong one.
The wrong one, yeah.
But I was watching her. I was studying her character, and I found out she takes care of her father. She's the only one in the family that's taking care of her father. That's a good sign.
Okay.
The way they treat their father is the way they'll treat their husband.
All right.
Right?
Okay. That's
There's a good quality. And
Okay.
I said she's a worker in the church, right? She's stable. She's dependable, right? And so I was looking at these qualities, and I decided, well, she could potentially be the one for me. And I asked. So when I had a moment there with the head elder's wife. I said, "Do you think this girl would marry me?" And I said, "Why isn't she married already?" You know. And they said, "Well, she's had opportunity, but she hasn't found the right person, and you know, she's waiting." And I said, "Do you think she would marry me?" She says, "Well, maybe." She said, "Maybe." Well, that got communicated from the head elder's wife to her.
To her, all right.
So she found out I was interested,
Okay.
you know, in taking another step.
It always take a second or third person to connect.
Yeah, you know, isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah. We help each other out in life like that. And so the Lord used head elder's wife to communicate, and then actually we had an opportunity to, I left, but I had planned to go to Thailand and have a little personal vacation before I went back home to work again. Well, we started connecting by email. And she said, you know, we haven't even got to know each other. We haven't spent any time together. And so I got in touch with my boss back home, my employer. I said, I want to extend my vacation. I had already taken a month off. 4 weeks already, and I extended for another 6 days, and or several days. I flew back from Thailand afterwards, back here to Sabah, and we met up, and you know, did some sightseeing. You know, we went up to Kundasang, and you know, just spent a little bit of time talking with each other. Thank God she spoke English.
Okay.
Otherwise, this never would have happened.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, we had gone down to the river. We were swimming in the river because I told her I want to go swimming in the river. So we were down at the river, and she said, and she told me, this was so romantic, so just wonderful. She said, my father told me my father gave me permission to marry you, and I went, and I said, yeah.
How did you feel?
I said, but how do you feel? What is your decision? And she said, yeah, I'll marry you.
Oh,
and I
right.
said, whoa. That was, you know, it was so wonderful. Of course, I had to go back to U.S. and, you know, then I had to end up quitting my job, best job I ever had, you know, making good money, and decided to come over here and get married. And
it is actually it's a pivotal kind of change that from there to here, you know, it was really a dramatic change, you know.
Oh yeah, very dramatic.
Dramatic, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, like night and day, really.
It's a 360 degrees. My. Everything, culture, social, environment, climate, food, everything.
Everything, yeah. But you know, I fell in
love. For
the
girl that you love.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we still have the missionary work, the spiritual work, but I think this is the part of life that you really need to abandon everything for her.
Well, you know, that's why the Lord created the marriage union, right? It's a missionary team. He sent the people out 2 by 2, his disciples, right? And so the husband and wife are a missionary team. You know, they don't always, maybe the wife's in the background, right?
All right.
Who was it who said, behind every good man is a good woman?
Right.
It's a famous quote.
Yeah,
so
right.
That kind of support, you know, and, you know, you can, when your home life is taken care of, then you can go out to the people. See, I can go out, and with this, I'm no longer looking for a wife. See, so I can minister to the women without trying to, you know, get emotional or attack, anything like that, intimate or nothing. I can witness to the men and the women here, because I already have my home life, you know, I'm already satisfied, happy, and so now my wife, I don't do good by myself. I've been alone before, and I found out I'm my own worst enemy. And if people won't understand, I used to say this in class, and the students looked at me like I was crazy. I told them, I hate myself. I hate myself. And they couldn't understand what. But Jesus said to love yourself, didn't he? I said, no. No, he didn't. He said, hate. If you do a study in the Bible, you'll find out we're to hate our life. You know, I don't want to go into the study right now, but there is one place that says, well, love your neighbor as yourself. That means, right. Oh yeah, this means I'm supposed to love myself first, so that way I can be good to my neighbor. That's not what it means.
Okay.
It means love your neighbor instead of yourself.
Okay.
You know, that's what Jesus did, right? He just gave and gave and gave until. So, well, yeah, we need to keep ourselves healthy, if that's what the Lord meant by taking care of yourself. You know, yes, keep your body and your mind in a good condition. That's that kind of love, yeah. But the kind of love as for serving other people is you're giving up your own convenience and those kind of things. I got a lot of problems. I mean, I'm not perfect, and my wife could probably tell you a lot of things that, you know, the Lord's still working on me. But thankfully, we do need to overcome all our sins. But the Lord looks at the trajectory of our life.
Right.
See, are you moving up, or are you just sitting there, not even making an effort? See, we're not saved by our efforts.
Are you moving or static?
Exactly. So, and you know, but if we don't make any effort, there's never anything going to be happening. So we combine our efforts, which the Lord provided us to begin with. We combine it with Him, cooperate with Him. It's a learning process, and we just one step at a time, you know, where maybe He's teaching you perseverance. Maybe He's teaching, you know, I said something that was not true the other day, and I just felt so bad about it. I said, Lord, how did that happen? I didn't intend for that, but I got caught in the moment, you see, trying to whatever. And so these are the kind of things, not premeditated or anything, but just we slip because we lost connection with the Lord. And that's why it says, you know, by faith. Well, that faith is that connection with God. If we have that connection all the time, then we won't fall into that little you slip up, you know, that mistake, that little sin. Even though it was unintended, the Bible calls them, you know, what do they call that? Not willful sin, but just sins of ignorance. Yeah, those sins of ignorance. But even those, in time, we get stronger to where we don't even do those anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we had a lot of talking.
Yeah.
I have been with Kurt for this interview. Make sure you stay on this channel, because Kurt will be with us on a few more videos after this. And I'm sure if you have any question, just put your question in the comments below, and then we will try to answer them. There are a lot of things we have learned, or we have discussed with Kurt here. Do you have any final few words for our viewers?
Yeah, never give up. Never give up. The Bible says a just man falls 7 times and gets back up again.
Amen. Okay, thank you very much. Stay with us.
Bye.